New England Gardening here. I'm trying to finish up on this greenhouse here. I just have a couple of panels left to put in, and then trying to figure out what to do with these smaller ones. I think I'll put 2 pieces of the polycarbonate on either side there, and then a solid piece of plywood in the middle, so I can put a light fixture there. And I've got the door in, got the side panels here. I've got this door in, one smaller panel to go here. You can see in the top here, I just have the one larger panel there to put in, and that's about it. And then start concentrating on the details like insulation and blocking up any small spaces that air can infiltrate. I'll be using that low compression foam, not the stuff that's really fills up cavities. But yeah, it's coming to an end here, hopefully. I've got, I think I'll put a solid piece of plywood there too for another light. And I have to figure out a little uneven there with the threshold and the existing concrete, which was put in to slope away from the house. I've got a new product I'm going to try that I found at the building supply store that hopefully will fill that gap in. It's almost like a mortar, I guess. But I put this panel on yesterday, and it was a good thing that the size here was 38 inches wide. So the panels are 48 inches wide, so it just so happened that was a good leftover piece for this section right here. So I'm in the process of cutting up the rails and the polycarbonate for this section. So I've got nothing but plywood on the north facing side there, and I'll put some insulation in there. I think I'm going to put that rigid insulation that has the foil backing on it. I thought that might be good. And I was also thinking, I wonder if using that cement board that you use like in bathrooms might be good for this wall to absorb heat. I don't know. We'll see. So here's the blade I'm using. Seems to be working out okay for this polycarbonate material. It's got 100 teeth. I guess it's for OSB and plywood. I have the blade set so it just goes just past the thickness of the polycarbonate, so it does go into this sacrificial plywood, and that way I guess I don't get any chip out, I think. Now these sheets come in 4 feet wide by 16 feet long, and they cut them in half for me where I purchased them, so I was able to get them home, because 16 feet's pretty long. But cutting these rails, what I've found that I'm doing is the end rails, I'm having the seam, I'm having the end rails come halfway between the thickness of the rails that have that join two pieces together. I don't know if that makes any sense. Now another way that I was doing it, which I regret, is I had the end rails here, or the side rails, were longer, and I think my train of thought was that the water was going to go past the bottom rails here, but you're supposed to drill weep holes in this rail anyways, so any condensation out there is able to get out. I mean, it's not a completely snug fit on here, so water will be able to, you don't have to drill a weep hole at every channel, just a couple along the bottom here. But that's the way I was doing the side panels, and then for some reason I changed my train of thought when I did a couple of the top panels, and I think that's what I was thinking, is having the water just channel past the bottom rails here, which I kind of regret. It's going to bother me. Maybe someday I'll change it, but not now. It's just too much work. I'll show you what I did here. If you can see on the top one, see, I had the channel go past the length of the polycarbonate with the bottom channel on it, which I would have rather had this one shorter to here, and then these two mate in the middle here. But I think that's what I was thinking, was that the water would channel all the way down and then run out. But what that does is it leaves a couple of these channels open, and I'm thinking, mason bees could get in there, where if you had this go past the polycarbonate, which is I think that's the way you're supposed to do it, you don't have to worry about that. They're not going to get in there. So we'll see if any mason bees, maybe it's going to be just too hot in here during the summertime. I don't want to block that up with like a silicone, because then if water does get in through the top, it's got nowhere to go, and it'll freeze, possibly in the wintertime, cracking the polycarbonate. So I don't know why. I think that's what I was thinking at the time, because I didn't do it on the other side. I did it the way I did the side panels. So live and learn. But you can see here, condensation still does build up in here. And these channels are such a tight fit that you do not use the cloth tape or the foil tape at the top. You use those tapes, the cloth and the foil, if you just have the polycarbonate panels and secured to like a wood frame or a metal frame, and you don't have the rails, this aluminum railing, you don't use that. So if you were to just have the solid single sheets of polycarbonate, and then you use these screws with the rubber gaskets, that's when you would use that tape. Because you can't, it's such a tight fit that tape would just, you would never get these rails on. So let's finish up this panel here today, I guess. I want to do some more painting on the frame for the last polycarbonate panel. I've been putting this paint on here. Somebody mentioned that to make sure that you paint it white, because it really gets hot during the summertime, I guess, if you paint it a darker color or just leave the bare wood. So I've been doing that. So I already measured this, but I'll show you again on camera. I'll put this panel in here. So I want it to go to the end here. So it's an even 12 inches. You can see what I'm talking about here. I want these two seams to be right in the center of this rail that joins two pieces together. That's the way I settled on doing it, so seems to work out kind of like that. I mean, on end pieces, you could just go to the very end of the polycarbonate, but you would have, a little bit of a notch out here. And I was just thinking it looks more aesthetically, looks better, just solid like that. I don't know. You'd have a notch out. Of course, then the water on the side rails, which you're really not getting unless the water's coming sideways, Again, that's why you drill weep holes in here, so any water that gets stuck in this groove here will just drain out a weep hole. But that's what that was my line of thought, is I didn't want a little notch out looking like it would be there and then also here. So it's just almost like a completed square. So let's cut these two last rails here and put this odd piece here in. Now I was thinking of getting another tool. That's all I need is another excuse, but I was going to get a chop saw, but this stuff cuts pretty easily, so just a hacksaw will do. I like to face the piece like this. That way I start two cuts, one on the top portion here and then one on the edge. As long as you get those two started, it stays a nice straight line. And you can remove the square. You got your cut. So not necessarily with these pieces, but with the longer pieces, it helps to put a little dish soap on here. And you can use scrap pieces to help you line up these end rails. Again, I want this halfway between these two with this rail. So that goes right on. It's pretty easy. Here's a mallet. So this is a pretty small piece. This will stay by itself before I can get the screws in. And it helps to take the protective film off before you put it up. So you can see what that looks like. Now that stays there on its own because it's such a small piece, but if you're doing larger pieces on your own, just tack on a straight edge, a board on the bottom to rest the panel while you get the first screw in place. So let's get some screws on this thing and get it secured. And I've been drilling pilot holes for number 10. I got number 10 3/4 inch and 1.5 inch stainless steel screws. So I'll go at least an inch from the edge here. I know there's a 2x4 behind here, that's why I'm using the 1.5 inch screw. And I need to widen that, the diameter of the screw, just the metal. And I've been putting screws every 12 inches. So, got the panel completed. That's all set. I was going to put 2 of these additional screws on. I think they recommend at least every 2 feet, within minimum of 2 feet apart for these larger sections, but this piece is so narrow that it's more solid and more rigid than the larger pieces here. I don't think it needs the extra support. I don't think it needs it. I could put one here and then one here. That's not going to blow out. So this is what it looks like from the inside. You can see here the corner, that was the hardest part. And there's that new panel right there. Got the door in, and I just need to put that one remaining top panel in. Then I could start doing the detail work, filling in the nooks and crannies so no critters can get in here. Start putting in insulation and figure out what I'm going to do with these last remaining gaps. So hopefully this will be warm enough to keep I'm going to keep my citrus trees in here. We'll bring the citrus trees inside. I can take the remaining fig trees out. So you can see why I referred to it as an L-shaped greenhouse, because it's on the corner of the house and it's an L shape. It's on two sides of the house. And you can see what it looks like from the top here, and the one panel that's remaining. So slowly but surely, should have this finished before the next frost or hard freeze. I could put the banana plants on this side and the citrus trees on the other. So this is New England Gardening, making some progress on the lean-to. Thanks for watching.